Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could you please join me in a pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Delegations, anybody from the public like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business budget reviews. The assessor, Mr. Formica.
I thought he was the first select.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. We have the assessor, Donna Bekich, is here behind me. And if you'll note, on this particular budget, everything is predominantly the same as it was. A little bit of, as you call above the line there. Increase in salaries, and looks like every other item is the same.
Any questions from the board?
No, it's not a very exciting budget.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
You should see the fun they have in that office, though. It's unbelievable. They have a great time all day.
Come on.
As much as the tax collector is not here, we'll move down to 127,
Right.
Board of Assessment Appeals.
Do we have to close that, or do we open these, or we
We
just
can
go
open
down?
it.
Okay.
We do that during deliberation,
All right.
right? Board of Assessment Appeals. Mr. First Selectman.
Again, same thing. This is a predominantly budget to pay the recording secretary and some miscellaneous expenses as they hear for budget appeals. The expenses are down because a lot of the appeals are done. I don't know, I know they've been having hearings a little bit this year, but they don't expect many for next year. So that budget is down by $1,135 as a result of that. And Donna can answer any questions on the extent of the expected appeals, should you be interested in that.
Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay, thank you. Move down to building. 104.
You're welcome to stay for the entire.
I don't think she's taking the bait.
No, it's worth a try. Thank you, Donna. Did you refer to me on this one already?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
First Selectman.
Joe Smith is here for the building department. This is showing an increase predominantly because of the expected increase in activity with regard to inspections. There are 10 or 12 large buildings just at the Gateway Commons itself, which will require some inspections, and should the Costco be built by July 1 of 2015, that would require inspections, and we anticipate that to happen on top of the regular. So we've taken and increased a little bit of the chief building official is where Joe is, and that is his incremental increase. And the building official is where we're showing the part-time increase, and that's based on hourly pay. He had that up to $25,000. As you see, I reduced that down a little bit as we were paring down the budget. The other item is the building permit software. This is the annual maintenance fee for the new web-based permit software that will be in operation by July 1. If you like, Joe can give you some updated information on that. That money was in the capital plan for this year and has been purchased, and I believe we're at the tail end of all of that process. And other than that, the increase in longevity is some people have achieved a longer time down there, but those are the only changes.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I just had a question, not on the expense side, but Joe, maybe you can answer that. On our, let me get to it.
Revenue?
Yeah, on our revenue side, I see that we had projected $200,000 in our budget of this current fiscal year, and as of, I think it is what, February 28th, you have $279,000 of building permits. What do you think is in the pipeline to the end of this fiscal year? And
Well, as of Friday, we're standing at a little bit over $300,000.
okay,
And I anticipate somewhere in the neighborhood of another 100,000 by the end of this fiscal year. That would all be for the buildings at Gateway, as well as another apartment building at Hope Street. I expect the revenues for that to come in. That one alone is a little over $60,000. That would come in the next couple of weeks. So if everything that they're promising from Gateway comes in, it could be 100 over that. But I'm going to remain conservative and say perhaps just another 100 at the end of this fiscal year.
If you
save
could
that
just-
for next year so you look good then, too.
I was going to say, if you could just tell me, I said 10 or 12 buildings. I believe it's 10 apartment buildings plus the one community building, and you expect to have all that permitted by, and the fees in by July 1, or do you think that'll feather through the fall as they begin to?
I anticipate more by July 1 and then more through fall and into the winter. There's also the clubhouse, there's the pump stations. All in all, that project would have total revenues of between $250,000 and $300,000. So.
Okay. So
All right.
just if I can follow up on your question, just for, you're at 242 is what we anticipated. So that may be something we can adjust.
242, you mean on your I was looking at what came in this year already.
Yeah, but for next year,
Okay.
that may be a conservative number
All right.
Maybe we can.
that we can think about at some
Increase.
point to bump up a little bit if you need revenue. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's why I wanted Joe
That's
to
okay.
clarify.
And then I anticipate another building on West Main Street next to the new one that Bill Heenan built last year
Right.
across from the new Henny Penny.
Right.
I expect to see applications in for that within the next month. And the houses are rolling in like gangbusters.
And I know that the Main Street across from Cafe Sol, those two houses are coming down. That gentleman is getting closer to financing, and that may generate some activity in the building by the end of the fiscal 15, so.
All right.
So a
we
lot of this will, while we're collecting the revenues this year, would be
Right.
work that's produced next year. And then most of the revenue that's collected next year would actually be for work that's done a year from now or into the next fiscal year after that. I anticipate this actually, what we're looking at is being somewhere in a 2-year build-out.
Okay. So for this year, though, our current budget had in 200,000 for round numbers. You think by end of June it might be 400, which is in theory some surplus, is that?
It could be 400 by the end of March.
Okay. So yeah, somewhere we can just, or if you can get together with the first selectman or Anna and just give us some kind of numbers, because clearly that's good news for the revenue side, and certainly it justifies your need for assistance.
I'm using 2 guys, one guy every Monday, another gentleman every Thursday and Friday afternoon. That's all that they're available. I've sent out feelers for more help, and I'm getting no response.
And could you speak a little bit about the permit, not the permit, but the plan review program that we implemented this year, that it may be helpful?
Yeah, we've taken advantage of an ordinance that we adjusted probably coming up on 3 years ago that provides us with an opportunity to use an outside plan review service and use the revenues coming from a specific project to pay for that plan review, which prevents us from having to hire somebody on a temporary basis and then lay them off. So we did this for the first time with the first 2 buildings at Gateway. And I anticipate using the same plan review company for the new building on Hope Street. I gave them the plans a week ago, and we're just looking for the money to come in from Hope Street. And we'll use that in the future for large projects. It doesn't really work for something small, like a house, but it works very well for a commercial building.
So is that part of their permitting fee, or in addition to their permitting fee, you can?
It's not an addition to, it's a portion
Okay,
of. It does
okay.
not change the costs to the applicant.
Okay.
It's something that we either pay out of those fees, or they pay directly and give us less money.
So do you have in your expense projections then for next year that additional expense? I get the fact that you're not gonna hire somebody and lay them off, but is somewhere, do you wanna create a line item that may be plan review or no?
I don't think so. It's too hard to quantify, and it would only be for projects that are above and beyond the anticipated projects.
Okay,
So it would be from revenue that we didn't anticipate in the first place. So I would rather not try to guess at some
Okay.
number, be somewhere between $10,000 and $100,000, and who knows where to put that.
I think that's a number that Anna will be able to give you. She'll certainly, at the end of each month, she'll be able to show you the revenue picture, and that will be part of that, and then
Right.
she'll have the expenditure,
Okay. That's fine.
as to each one. But that's the review of the paper plans.
right.
So that.
Joe and the
plan-
team still does the
Inspections and
inspections
everything,
out
sure.
on the field.
Yeah.
Correct.
So within that permitting amount, Anna will have an ability to show us how much of that permit amount was allocated towards a plan review.
Depends on how we do it. On the
Okay.
one that we're doing for Gateway, we're collecting all of the fees and then paying a lump sum to the plan review company, so that we could show that figure. The way that we wrote the ordinance, we could simply collect less revenue, and the company that's doing the development could pay the plan review company. So that would not show on our records at all, because it's not money we ever collected in the first place.
Okay.
But I could give you that number anytime, because I actually find out what that fee is gonna be first before we make that agreement.
Thanks, Joe.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
I see the
Thanks, Joe.
tax collector has arrived, so we'll move to 103 tax collector.
Burning the midnight oil, collecting our taxes.
Still has blood on his knuckles.
Right, from beating up the line. We're at 99% now.
All right, again, this is a slight incremental increase with regard to salaries, tax aids predominantly, and it looks like the rest of the budget we held pretty similar, pretty same, except for service contracts that John can talk to you about.
Sure,
And maybe you can mention the collection rate while
of course.
you have any of that information.
Yes, up to today, the collection rate is 97.75 against the current grand list, for a total of $46,648,000. Our total collections, including previous grand list years, interest and liens, is $47,267,691 to date.
John, you're slipping. What's going on?
Actually, we're a little ahead of last year.
Just kidding.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board? No, I say it's pretty flat. I mean, 4,600 of the increases is due to
Longevity.
pay and longevity, and that's out of a $5,400 increase, so. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Now, we'll move on to Commission on Aging. $418. Mr. First Selectman.
418, this is the one problem department head that we have in the town.
Well, we don't have to worry about longevity going up then.
No, I'm teasing. You know, Kathy does a great job managing this this department that's showing signs of stress and strain as the pressures get greater on her staff and her room up there. So we're looking at, you know, and again in salaries, just the small increase there. Program instructors, these program instructors, I believe, identify the costs of the programs that are non-reimbursable by fees. And I think going down into, where were we talking about before? Was that the number?
That's at 415.
415, okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, that's right. So that is a result of, some of those are not fee reimbursable. Those are programs that we provide to the community for either those who don't afford or don't pay, or just something we do for, that's why that's there and not in the special revenue fund. Slight increase in telephone and internet, and other than that, you're looking at a fairly flat budget. And Kathy is here, and I tease her, but she does a great job up there.
Any questions from the board? I do have one. Go ahead, Camille.
Oh, sure.
Oh, go
You
ahead.
first.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
I do have one question, actually two questions. I'm just curious if your department had applied for a grant from the Senior Resources Agency on Aging. I understand there's some money available, and the deadline to apply for that grant is April 4th.
No, we have not applied for a grant through them. The Senior Resources grant money isn't really program-related. It's more transportation issues or social service issues. So it's not really something that I would look to offset a fitness class.
So
or-
it's needs related,
Correct.
the funding. That was my other question. Thank you. And could you just speak to our aging population here in town, if it's increasing, decreasing?
Funny you should ask me that. So I went and looked at a couple of things. The 2012 US Census. And the 65-plus population makes up 13.7% of the total US population. Here in Connecticut, the 65-plus population is greater than that. It's like 14.6%. So Connecticut is running a little bit older than the rest of the country. And here in East Lyme, the 65-plus population, based on the latest CERC data, which is the Connecticut Economic Resource Center, is 16%. So 65-plus is 16% of the population. If you add in the 50-plus, you jump to about 38% of the population is going to become, I shouldn't say become a client of mine, but is sort of in my catch area. So. And the interesting sort of thing that's happening now, which I've been seeing, is the 85-plus or the sort of frailer
Focusing on
adults,
your head.
that population is exploding. But then you have the baby boomers that are now coming in, so that population is exploding. But their desires are very, very different. So it's kind of an interesting challenge to program for both areas.
Can imagine.
We do have an item in the capital plan that we're proposing in addition to the right side of that, if you, as you look at it, just kind of a box room that would be extended off from her office area down to the end of her service area down there, just in an effort to try to give more program space, because there's an opportunity for Nita. So we're looking at maybe doing that either in the spring or in the next fiscal year, just to help offset and create, so you can have one program in one side for one age group and another program on the other side for another age group at the same time, which may help both in terms of staffing and in program participation.
Since 2013, and I'm going to get on back onto program instructors.
Okay.
Since 2013, that line item has increased about $6,500, such that you're projecting $36,000 for those types of programs, which are provided to the on a non-reimbursable basis.
No, we do charge for the programs. I don't charge in order to cover the 100% of the cost. So I am getting revenue off of that particular line item. But I'm not sure where your figures are coming, because
2013, we actually spent on program instructors $29,673.
right, but you see.
And now we're asking for $36,000.
But a portion of that money was diverted to another program line, which is called the, hold on a minute, let me get the Program Services Line 215. We split that a few years ago because program services is something, they're more like contract employees. So if I hire entertainment, it's a one-time
Right.
cost. If I hire a band, it's a one-time cost. So the 29, but you see down if you see lower, the lower line, the 215 line, I spent $9,500. So I sort of look at that as one line item, just sort of split differently because we handle the back of the house stuff differently, going through payroll versus going through accounts payable.
Okay. Any other questions?
Kathy, along those lines, I'm looking at the revenue side of our budget, and I see 2013, the programs brought in 30,000, give or take. We projected 24, and as of the end of February this year, you got like 16.7. And so is there some seasonal, or you think
Well,
you're on?
there's definitely seasonal, because we do lose some people to warmer climates in the winter, and then this particular winter has just been sort of really difficult on our attendance. And, you know, when attendance is down and revenue is down because
We don't have a curling team or anything that? No.
You should see Mr. Carpentier sweep that ice.
It's
I've
unbelievable.
never seen anything like it.
Seen him scrub with that brush. All right, so that's 16. What do you, I mean, is that, what do you think we'll end up at the year? Under our,
I think we'll probably be under just because the attendance has been down because the
Okay.
weather's been so bad.
and we got a projection of 26 in for next year, and not to, this isn't meant to hold you to anything. It's
Well,
just
I
trying to.
always strive for that, so, and a lot
Okay.
of it is sort of out of my control and,
When you get weather like-
either you have a hurricane and the building is used as a shelter, and so that, or, you know, whatever, so.
No, that's fine.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move down to 101, First Selectman, and I guess we can hear from the First Selectman on that.
Okay, on this particular budget, you have the increases in salary of approximately $6,000 cumulative. I reduced the amended budget by $800 with regard to ad hoc committees and whatever we rounded one off there, and then the other for economic development, we took some off. There hasn't been a lot of activity there. Postage is something we're still showing an increase in, and the rest of the stuff, I reduced miscellaneous supplies in a lot of these departments, you know, by a couple $100 here and there as I went over the final review. So we're up
Tonight.
about $4,500. Huh? Oh, bye, Kath.
Is the Economic Development the same as the Economic Development Commission?
What we did, Beth, was we couldn't get participation in the Economic Development Commission, and there wasn't a lot going on there. So we kind of zeroed out that budget and brought it over to the First Selectman's budget and made it a committee of the First Selectman's, or the Selectman's office. And most of that, as you know, the real meat and potatoes of economic development is done by the First Selectman's office. Anyway, you're out meeting with people, and it seemed to work. They were providing services to events such as the stroll. They would donate for some events
Celebrate
there,
East
some
Lyme.
porta potties and Celebrate East Lyme, and they would kind of support events as they go. But the real work of economic development, the budget was never strong enough to really sustain an economic development coordinator. It was like $7,500, and it was, you know, what can you do with that as a six-person committee? So by bringing it over here, we have people that are interested. There's 3 or 4 people, and in the event that we need to, you know, to talk to them or get advice, then we'll go from there. We tried it for a year. This first year, nobody really missed it that much. So we're going to kind of see, and if the package improves, and if we're ever going to add somebody, you know, way back when I think when Mr. Cheney was here, there were 2 members in the office to support the First Selectman. If that were to ever happen again, I would propose an economic development coordinator on a part-time basis to work with businesses, have some GIS training, coordinate with the planning office and the first selectman's office, and then go out and really try to help businesses fine-tune the acquiring of demographics information to help support their business and bring business in. So, but at this point, that's how we're handling it.
Any other questions on the first selectman's budget? I got a question about the ad hoc committees. You only use 31% of your budget. Does that mean you're going to use a lot of it between now and the end of the fiscal year, or how does that work?
You know, we weren't sure at this, again, with the Economic Development Committee, we weren't sure what kind of dollars were there, and we weren't sure what other activities were going on with the ad hoc committee. I think we were paying out of that the Darrow's Pond Committee. I think that was part of last year. That ended. So we may not use all that.
So you give that back, probably, right?
That would be part of the $600,000 we have annually given back to the town for the last 3 years. So that's where a lot of that comes from.
Any other questions for the first selectman?
I do. And it's with regard to this stipend again for the Board of Selectmen. I know I brought this up last year, and I asked why for that one board and no other board. And I guess, you know, that's the way it's always been done, was that was the answer I got last year.
State statute requires it.
Is it
And
a
charter.
state
It's in the
statute?
charter, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted that clarification because I didn't want to, I was concerned about the appearance of impropriety, why one board would get a stipend and not, say, the Board of Education, you
Yeah.
know, working just as hard.
Or harder.
Lots of, or
More-
harder.
more-
Paul used
Yeah.
to feel that way when he was on the
Remember?
Board of Finance.
I used to bring this up
It's
all the
Same
time.
argument.
Yeah.
No.
But I did find out in research, it's either the Connecticut General Statute.
Oh, you were prepared for me this year.
Yeah, or well, no, that's the answer that I found out when I was in your chair. So,
You'll find out that also the Board of Assessment Appeals
Yeah, that's the.
they have to,
receives an hourly pay, minimum wage, for the hours that they work on it, and that's so that they can't be bribed. That's also a state statute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
so.
I would like to, any further questions for the first selectman? What we have next is Finance Department and Health and Welfare. Health and Welfare is a completely flat budget. Sergeant Blanchett is here. Why don't, so he can get some rest tonight, why don't we move down to 216? Is that all right with the board?
Yep.
That's fine. Thank you. 216, Police Department.
He'll be happy all of the Blanchetts are ready and waiting for him.
Sergeant Blanchett.
But I would just like to first commend Sergeant Blanchett and the department for all the hard work and the way they've grown over the last couple of years, especially under his leadership. It's just done a wonderful job, not only managing the budget, managing the personnel, but providing the opportunity for us to implement rules and regulations, which I believe is 2 years ago, that have gone off pretty well without a hitch. And I think that's a direct result of his stellar leadership. So we should thank him for that. And the State Police Resident Trooper Program has been a wonderful program for the town. So